Oh my goodness. Hello, lovely ladies. I'm so glad to be here and so excited to have you. I wanted to start off this video by saying if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them, and I would love to answer any of your questions. So, this video I'm super excited to make. As you guys know, it is 2026. Where did the time go? Oh my goodness. It's an even number year though. A lot of people are saying that means something. I'm not sure what, but apparently it means something. But 2025 really whooped me on my butt in so many ways. I mean, I grew, I cried, I healed, I challenged myself, I created things, invented new versions of myself, helped heal others. It was just a crazy year, but I wouldn't change it for the world because I have such an interesting view on healing, on pain, on growth, and I think it's essential. And I actually view pain in a positive lens, whereas a lot of people don't. So I'm going to share 5 lessons, the biggest lessons I think I have learned in 2025 that have really altered me as a human that I want to share with you guys, share with the world, scream it from the rooftops that I've talked about with my family. One thing that my family and I do a lot is whenever we're out to eat or even just at our own dinner table, we'll ask questions like, what are you grateful for? What have you learned recently? And these were some of those concepts and ideas that came up quite frequently during the conversations. So, first one, it's kind of a quote. I didn't take it from anywhere. I would like to think that I made it, but you know how that works. So, God will put you in periods of solitude for elevation, but the devil will trap you in isolation. So, for a lot of my life, I never really felt like I belonged, and as sad as that sounds, I've come to terms with it, so I don't really view it as a sad thing anymore, but I definitely used to. I used to be the kid who ate at, like, high school in the bathroom alone or with my sister, and I didn't like, I had friends, but there was a lot of times in my life where I didn't have pretty much anybody. I have a new candle, and it's pretty cold in my room, but I love this candle. It's French vanilla and it smells delicious. My mom got it for me for Christmas. So, yeah, I was in a lot of periods of isolation in my life, but I had never learned who I was to the core more than in those periods. It really forces you to sit with yourself. I mean, when I was super, super young, I had a lot of friend groups. Always had a best friend group, and I found myself being so depressed when I was alone and so happy when I was with other people. So I would always chase that friends, always chase those friends, always want to be out, never want to be in my room alone because that's when the thoughts would come. That's when I would get super insecure, super overthinking, super sad, depressed, all of those things. But 2025 really opened up my eyes because I had broken up with my ex, and we were in a long-term relationship. So I broke up with him, and when I was with him, I really didn't have any friends. I just had like my mom and my sister. So I feel like in those moments, I learned the most about myself, but it became a point where I was extremely lonely. And I gained so much knowledge about other people. Like, I learned how our brains work when we surround ourselves with negative people. I also, because I was so alone all the time, I would always look up successful entrepreneurs, what they were doing, and I saw a lot of similarities in a lot of these different people's mindsets and actions. And one of them being is be careful who you surround yourself with, and it's so true. We are like the 5 people we surround ourselves with the most. With that being said, I took this and ran with it. Any single thing I didn't like in a person, gone, cut, bye. And I have to like I know that I'm not perfect, but I didn't act like this. You know what I mean? I cut a lot of people out who are just humans as well. So again, after this such a long period of just being alone and learning about myself and starting my business and all of these things, I I started to fall in love with the solitude. I really, really did. I was having such a good time by myself. I love my own energy. I love being by myself to this day. Like, I can create such a peaceful environment. But something had happened where community kept being a big thing that God was, like, showing me. I remember going to church one time and the pastor saying, like, "When you have a hurt foot, you cut it off. No, you heal it." And he had mentioned that with relationships, like, a lot of times people are just cutting others off, but you can do that. That's not a bad thing to do, but at the same time, not all relationships are perfect, and they're gonna be hurt times. And so I just understood that, and I understood the power of community because I was seeing it in front of me. I was seeing people come together and laughing and all these things, and that's just a normal human experience. But at the time, I felt so deprived of it that it made me cry. I remember I was watching people just come together in church, and it genuinely made me so emotional to see, as silly as it sounds, to see humans interacting and loving each other. So that was the first one. Recap: God will put you in periods of solitude for elevation, but the devil traps you in isolation. The second one is be open to love. This world is filled with love everywhere. And when you hide yourself from it, okay, let me just start off by saying I understand. I understand why people hide themselves from love because I was 100% that person. I hid all the time because I was scared. I was scared of being hurt. I was scared of being abandoned. I was scared of being vulnerable. I was scared of being judged. Especially by somebody who, saw parts of me that nobody else saw. And I think obviously this is rooted from childhood, for example, abandonment. Like my dad was not there, still isn't. And so that was a huge thing for me. Like I was just so scared of being abandoned by somebody who I was vulnerable with and who I trusted. So many people are walking around with their guards up. Person A is hurt, traumatized, scared of the world. Person B, traumatized. They both want love. We all do. There's not one person who doesn't want to feel seen, doesn't want love. They come together, and because of their guards up, they hurt and they traumatize each other. If one person just started loving unconditionally themselves, other people, it would create this domino effect of unconditional love, of seeing what that looks like, because a lot of people have never experienced unconditional love in their entire lives. So this is actually a goal of mine. It's just sorry, I'm just gonna mute. I ordered groceries today, so it should be coming soon. But that is another goal of mine, is to love unconditionally, to have my guard down. Obviously be protective because my energy is sacred. My temple is sacred, right? But being protective of myself is different than having a guard up. I know that sounds I know it doesn't sound different, but trust me, it very much is. So that is a goal of mine. Lowering my guard, allowing myself to be seen, allowing myself to be vulnerable, allowing myself to love and to be loved. Recap: be open to love, be receptive of it. I understand there's a lot going around too, like your single era, which is beautiful. I love being in my single era. Like, it genuinely, when you love being yourself and love being with yourself, people will gravitate towards you. Okay. At the same time, when you're in this state, people are going to naturally gravitate towards you. That's just how it is. When you're focused on you, allow the intention to be, instead of no man, da da da, the right one. And this will still allow you to have those high standards and have good quality friendships, good quality relationships, but you aren't blocking out the person for you. You aren't blocking out those essential relationships for growth. You're allowing them to come in while having those standards. My third one is you determine your worth. This has always confused me, especially when I was younger. I was obsessed with confidence, leveling up, self worth, self perception, all these things. And for the longest time, worthiness for me meant worthiness in the eyes of others. If other people saw me to be worthy, then I was worthy. And so I would do things like, um, or dress a certain way to get attention, because again, worth to me meant attention. it meant attention from others. Until I started to have that worthiness of myself inside, right? When I understood that I was just worthy because I'm breathing. I'm just worthy because I'm living. I'm worthy because I'm a woman. There's like nothing I have to actually do. Oh, I think something just happened. Hopefully it's still working. There was nothing I actually had to do to be worthy. I was already worthy. This being said, in 2025, I'm just gonna have a little break to drink my cacao. I had this beautiful um, glass from a church that I went to, but I'm filling it. I don't know. I want to tip it with cacao, pure cacao. It is super healthy, super delicious. I didn't add any honey to it, so right now it's like super bitter. But okay. That being said, 2025 for me was filled with raising my standards. What do I want in a relationship? How do I want to interact with the world? And I realized that I determine that. I determine my worth from other people. You know the saying, oh my goodness, I'm going to forget this. No, I'm not going to forget it. What's the saying? People will treat you how you treat you. That is so true. If you have treated yourself poorly and hated on yourself, hated on your looks, super insecure, always talked down on yourself, constantly like had a bad relationship with food, for example, people are going to reflect that to you. But once you start really loving yourself, truly accepting yourself, walking in your purpose and your confidence, people naturally will start to treat you that way as well. Not because not because you are different, but because you believe in yourself more. You have a different perception of yourself. And everything is a reflection. Everything. Every single thing. I remember telling my client one time, she had felt judged from other people. And I used to be the same way. I constantly felt judged by everyone else to the point where my mom would get frustrated every time we were in a grocery store, for example, because someone would look at me and I'd be like, they're judging me. She'd be like, Alexis, no one's judging you. But I had such a huge problem with this. And a way that I realized it was happening was figuring out that everything was a reflection. And no one was judging me. I was judging me. And I was also judging them for thinking they were judging me. You know how many times I've just looked at a woman and smiled and she's giving me like a dirty look? She probably thought that girl's judging me. Well, I'm thinking she's beautiful. You know, it is always just a reflection of your internal. That's it. You determine your worth. One day, my standards were to the floor, to the freaking floor. Texting me back was like an A on my list. Now I have these set of standards that need to be met by men for them to even talk to me because I know where I am. I know what I bring to the table. I know who I am. I know my purpose. I know my path. I know where I'm going. And I will only talk to or allow energy in that aligns with that goal. You determine your worth. If one day you are just sitting at home and your standards are tall and text back, you can say, no, you know what? They're going to bring me flowers. They're going to open the door for me. They're going to pull out the chair for me. They're going to respect me. They're never going to scream at me. You can do that. You're allowed to. You have the full ability and capacity to do so. Number 4 is life is what you make of it. Okay. Perception is everything. There's actually one cool fact that I learned is there's nothing going on here that is actually happening. All of it is being filtered through our head, through our brains. Not our head, through our brains. And our brains are filled with such fascinating things. One thing that's really cool is your brain will actually filter out things that, okay, I'm trying to articulate this well. There are millions of things around you at all times, and your brain is wired to filter them to only receive certain pieces of information that seem most important. A big thing with this was because of our olden days, we would need to know when there was a predator coming. So it would filter out the rest and see this predator, right? This is how it is now, but it is different than just a predator. It also is an emotional enhancements tool, you could say. Say when you were a child, how can I say this correctly? I'm trying to use the correct words. correct terminology. Your brain will focus on what you focus on, essentially. That's, you know, the saying, energy, where energy goes, attention, where attention flows, energy goes. That is exactly the truth. If you are focusing on a red car, you will see red cars. If you're focusing on those red cars, you will not notice a blue. That's just how it is. So if you're always constantly focusing on the negative, you're going to find the negative everywhere. There's a part in our brain called the reticular activating system, and this is exactly what it does. That is the part that filters out what you don't want to see and what you do see. I have a very cool example. So my mother and I were reading on the beach one day, and there was a person who was sitting on these rocks near the ocean, just gazing off into the ocean. And my immediate thought was, they must be having such a beautiful time, just relaxing. And I said that out loud to my mom. She responds with, "Really? I thought they were depressed." And that is goes to show it was the exact same person, exact same situation. We were in the exact same setting, exact same time, but we perceived the situation differently based off of our internal experience. And that is what it was. My mom was super not okay at the time, and I was trying to help. And myself, I had a very good mindset, and I still do. And so that was my mind, that that person's having a lovely time, you know. And that's just how life is. You could be with a person experiencing the exact same situation and taking it differently because of the perception. So, if, for example, you have this thought that everything goes wrong for me, I'm just so unlucky, you're going to live life in that lens. Everything is going to look like that. Everything's going to be like that for you because that's just a belief that you hold. And therefore, your reticular activating system is going to constantly look for confirmation of that belief. My last one, but definitely not least, and this is something I talk about a lot, especially in my community. If you are a woman who's looking for a community of women who are uplifting each other and healing and talking about self development and self love, you can join my free community in the link of my Instagram bio. In my Instagram bio, I also have free resources for self love. For example, I have a journal freebie. So once every day for a week, there's a new journal prompt to go into to really love yourself more, to figure out who you are, because the first step of change or self love is awareness. Okay, I also have my availability for coaching. I do one on one coaching, so you can see me there as well. Last one is feel it to heal it. Yes, you probably have heard this a million times, especially if you're not new to this channel, especially if you watched me before. Feel it to heal it. This world is so good at making you feel like your emotions are unstable. Your emotions shouldn't be felt, that you should hide, that you should cover it up with drinking and smoking and partying and all these things. There is a few lessons that I've learned about emotions because I used to be somebody who completely numbed myself out with drugs and alcohol. And in fact, I was numb without any medication. I was just so sad, so depressed that I was numb. And then there's the other spectrum where I was so emotional, I'd cry over everything. Everything was upsetting to me to the point where people felt like they couldn't be around me because I was just constantly taking everything so personally and crying all the damn time. First thing is don't be controlled by it. Emotions are crazy, crazy thing to mess with if you don't know how to actually process it in a healing manner. I always say to people, if you're controlled by your emotions, okay, this is what I say. People controlled by their emotions have killed people. People with no emotions have killed people. And it's a little weird balancing act that happens here because when you are so emotional, you end up doing some hard things. But when you stuff it down, you also end up doing some hard things. And so much so, have you ever heard of the overflowing pot? When you keep stuffing stuff in, it's going to overflow. And that's when you burst out in anger at your loved one for doing something silly that wouldn't have normally made you upset. Okay? Emotions are to be used as a compass. I had a mentor one time told me that emotions were like spiritual and wisdomic teachers, and that changed my perception of all emotions. Because this was so true. When I was happy, it was a guide. It was a guide to tell me what I like, what my purpose is, what my soul yearns for, and I just kept going in that direction. For example, when I was younger and I would meditate and no one else around me was meditating. Like, I didn't learn this from somebody. It was something that I loved. that was my compass. And then there was things that, for example, like envy. I would envy women with certain bodies. And a lot of us like to shove this emotion down because envy, hate, guilt, they don't feel good. They don't feel good, but that they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. For example, you will have, let me think of a good example. Food. Food is a good example with this. If you eat too much of pizza, you're not gonna feel good, but that's good. Your body shouldn't feel good after eating a lot of pizza. It's processed, it's greasy, it's not good for you. But if you ate a lot of maybe strawberries, you'll feel better, you know? And it's just the compass. It's just emotions are compasses. So, for example, envy is just what you want. And once I realized that all my emotions were actually guiding me and were meant to guide me instead of meant to be suppressed, it changed my life. For a woman, when you are connected to your emotions, you are connected to a different part of your being. Emotion, okay, women are not mini men. Men function from the space of logic, from their head a lot of the times. That's just how they're built. Women's function from a state of our emotions, from our being. Once a month, we have a menstrual cycle, which literally flushes things out of our body as well as emotions. You're going to feel super hyper emotional because of what's happening inside. We're just made naturally. We're made naturally to be intuitive, which is connecting to our bodies. I don't know why I said here. Intuitive is connecting to our bodies, not our head. We're the opposite of men in that way. Okay, so when you actually connect to yourself, you will get more intuitive downloads. You will feel closer to your body than ever. I'm a very spiritual person. I feel closer to God. I feel closer to source when I'm connected to self. So, one thing that I do now that I did not ever used to do is actually sit in the emotion. If something upsetting happens, instead of scrolling on my phone, instead of eating, obviously this happens sometimes, but I tend to catch myself. I will sit down. I'll give myself a minute or two of just crying without thinking, without trying to analyze it. Because I'm a psych student, I tend to analyze a lot. Without analyzing, I allow myself to just fully feel it, to just fully sit in it. Then I love myself through it. I talk myself through it. You're okay. You're safe. And I allow it all to come out. And then that is when I do my process of awareness, acceptance, love, forgiveness. And I'll just go through that emotion and it guides me. It guides me to the step. For example, say I was jealous at the gym because a woman had a beautiful body and I don't know. And maybe I was just super upset that day. I'd come home, I would feel the jealousy, fully immerse in it. I would accept it. I'd bring awareness to jealousy. I'd accept it because I can't do anything about it. I would send love to that part of me that didn't feel whole enough on my own. I would forgive myself for feeling that and forgive whatever the situation is. And then I would take the lesson from it. I was envious because I want it. Then I would take the next steps. What can I do to achieve it? And that is how I actually run through my emotions now. And it's beautiful. It has changed my life. So those are the 5 lessons that I've learned in 2025 that have truly changed my life entirely. And I'm so glad that you've watched the end of this video. If you have loved this video as much as I love making it, subscribe, like, comment on something that you'd love to see, and join my free community of lovely ladies. Mwah.